The sun was slowly sliding toward the horizon, turning the sky warm and orange. The wide plains stretched in every direction with dry grass waving in the wind. A tall cowboy named Tom walked across the open land with steady steps. He was known in the small towns nearby as the Gentle Giant because he was taller than any other man and stronger than most horses, but he never used his strength to hurt anyone. His hat gave him shade, and his boots made soft sounds on the dry ground. Tom had been walking since the morning. He was searching for a new place where he could find water, rest, and maybe explore a new path. Life on the plains was lonely, but Tom had learned to live with silence. He listened to the wind, watched the clouds, and hoped each day would bring a small surprise to break the quiet. He reached a dry creek bed and knelt to examine the ground. He touched the cracked earth with his large hand and sighed. There had been water here once, but now it was empty. He lifted his head to scan the plains for another sign of life. That was when he heard a weak sound behind him. Tom turned slowly, not wanting to startle whatever was there. His eyes landed on a thin shape standing several steps away. It was a wolf. Its fur was dull and messy, and its ribs showed clearly under the skin. The wolf's legs shook as if it could barely hold its own weight. Its breath came out in slow, unsteady movements. Tom understood the situation at once. This wolf was starving. It did not look strong enough to attack anything. Instead of danger, Tom saw a creature on the edge of collapse. Still, the wolf's eyes held fear, and fear could make any creature act without thinking. Tom raised both hands in a calm way. "Easy there, friend." The wolf let out a weak growl. It sounded like a growl a tired child might make. Its tail stayed low, and its ears were flat. The wolf did not move closer, but it also did not run. Tom studied the wolf for a moment. He knew wild animals usually preferred to avoid humans, especially large ones. This wolf must have followed his scent because it was desperate. Tom felt a pull in his chest, not fear, but sympathy. No living creature should suffer alone on these plains. He slowly reached into his bag and took out a strip of dried meat. He set it gently on the ground and stepped back several steps. "Take it if you want it. I will not harm you." The wolf stared at him for a long moment. Its body trembled, but its eyes stayed locked on the food. Hunger won the battle inside it. The wolf crawled forward, sniffed the meat, and began to eat. It ate in small careful bites like it was afraid the food might disappear. Tom watched quietly. When the wolf finished, it lifted its head. There was no sudden change in its posture. It still looked weak and scared, but it no longer looked like it wanted to run away. For a moment their eyes met. Tom felt something shift in the air between them. It was not trust yet, but it was the start of something small and delicate. He sat down on a fallen log a short distance away. The wolf stayed where it was, lying down to rest after the small meal. Tom kept his movements slow and quiet. He knew sudden actions might frighten the tired creature. The sky darkened as the sun reached the edge of the land. Tom lit a small campfire using dry twigs and branches he had collected earlier. The fire gave warm light but stayed low and controlled. He cooked a bit of his food for the night. The smell carried through the air. The wolf lifted its head slightly, sniffing again. Tom smiled a little. "You are still hungry. I can tell." He tore off another small piece of meat and tossed it gently toward the wolf. The wolf hesitated, then ate again. Its tail moved just a tiny bit, not enough to call a wag, but enough to show a hint of comfort. Tom leaned back and looked at the stars beginning to appear. He had been alone on these plains for long weeks, meeting no one except travelers passing by in the distance. Suddenly he did not feel as alone. The wolf stayed near the fire but not too close. It watched Tom with half-open eyes, fighting sleep. Tom understood that a starving creature never slept safely. It always feared that danger might be waiting. "You can rest if you want. I will keep watch." The wolf did not understand his words, but it understood his tone. Slowly, it lowered its head to the ground and let its eyes close. Its breathing became slower and softer. Tom sat by the fire, listening to the night sounds. Insects chirped. The wind brushed through the dry grass. A lonely night on the plains did not feel lonely anymore. Every few minutes he looked at the wolf to make sure it was still breathing comfortably. He wondered how long the wolf had been alone. Maybe it had lost its pack. Maybe it had been injured and left behind. Life in the wild was hard, even for strong creatures. Tom felt that this wolf had been fighting for too long without help. As the night grew deeper, Tom added a little more wood to the fire. The soft glow spread gently across the ground. The sleeping wolf twitched its ear but remained calm. Tom rested his back against the log and allowed himself to relax. A thought came to him. It was simple and honest. I need a friend and you need food. The words felt true. He had spoken them earlier without planning, but now they sank into his heart. Maybe fate had led them to each other. Maybe this meeting would change both of their lives. Tom closed his eyes for a moment. The fire crackled. The plains stretched into the darkness. The wolf slept peacefully for the first time in many days. The gentle giant cowboy kept watch, and for the first time in a long time, he felt hope growing inside him. The story of Tom and the hungry wolf had begun with quiet steps, but it promised to become something strong. The first light of morning touched the plains with soft gold. Birds began to call from faraway trees, and the cool air of dawn moved gently across the dry grass. Tom opened his eyes and stretched his arms. His back felt stiff from sleeping on the hard ground, but his spirit felt lighter than usual. He looked toward the spot where the wolf had slept. To his surprise, the wolf was still there. Its head rested on its front paws, and its eyes watched him calmly. The wolf lifted its head a little, but it did not growl or show fear. Tom smiled. "Good morning, friend. Seems like you are still with me." The wolf blinked, then stood slowly. It looked stronger than the day before, though still thin. Tom reached into his bag and took out another small piece of dried meat. He tossed it gently on the ground. The wolf stepped forward, ate it, and then looked at him again. Tom stood up and brushed dust from his clothes. He had a long road ahead. He planned to travel toward the rocky hills to the east. There might be water there, and maybe a place to rest for more than one night. He started walking. The wolf stayed where it was for a moment, then followed him at a distance. Tom noticed the soft steps behind him. Each time he looked back, the wolf stopped and stared, as if checking whether Tom truly wanted its company. Tom spoke in a calm voice. "If you want to follow, I will not stop you." The wolf lowered its head a little, then continued walking behind him. The morning sun climbed higher, warming the land. Tom moved with steady steps, and the wolf kept a safe distance, still unsure but willing to stay close. Around midday the land changed. The plains became rocky. Sharp stones and uneven ground appeared under their feet. Tom moved carefully, knowing that one wrong step could twist his ankle. The wolf, however, walked lightly with natural skill. It sometimes moved ahead of him, sniffing the air or checking a new path. It felt like the wolf was guiding him without being asked. Tom appreciated the help. Even though they had not known each other long, he felt safer with the wolf's sharp senses watching the land. After some time, Tom reached a steep slope. He placed his foot on a large rock, but the rock shifted under his weight. His boot slipped, and he fell to one knee. A sharp edge cut into his leg. Pain shot through him. He pressed his hand against the wound and tried to breathe through the sting. The wolf ran toward him at once. It circled him, making soft, worried sounds. Tom sat on a flat stone and looked at the cut. It was not deep, but it hurt and needed attention. "Easy now. I just need a moment." The wolf stayed close, watching the surroundings for danger. Tom tore a strip from his old shirt and tied it around the cut to stop the bleeding. He felt grateful that the wolf had come forward instead of running away. When he finished, Tom looked at the wolf. "You stayed. That means something." The wolf tilted its head slightly, as if trying to understand. Its eyes no longer held fear. Instead, there was a calm trust growing slowly, like a small flame finding strength. Tom stood after a short rest. His legs still hurt, but he could walk. He continued forward, and the wolf walked right beside him now, not behind him. It was as if the wolf had decided that Tom needed protection. The day grew warmer. Heat shimmered above the stones, and the air felt heavy. Tom wiped sweat from his face and took a sip of water from his bottle. He wished he had more. Life on the plains always made water precious. The wolf moved with more confidence than before. It found paths between the rocks that were easier to walk on. It avoided sharp stones and guided Tom around areas that looked unstable. Tom followed quietly, impressed by the wolf's sense of the land. Several hours passed before Tom saw the shadows of 3 large boulders that formed a natural shelter. He walked toward them with slow steps. The wolf stopped to sniff the air, making sure the place was safe. Tom sat down in the shade with relief. The rock walls protected him from the sun, and a cool breeze moved through the space. The wolf lay down near the entrance, keeping watch. Tom realized something important at that moment. He had given food to the wolf, but the wolf had already given something greater. It had given loyalty without asking for anything more. Tom leaned back against the rock and closed his eyes for a moment. He listened to the wolf's steady breathing. This simple sound brought comfort. It reminded him that he was no longer walking these plains alone. When he opened his eyes again, the sun had lowered. Evening was approaching. Tom rose slowly and gathered dry twigs to start a small fire. He cooked a bit of food for himself and a small piece for the wolf. The wolf watched him the whole time. When Tom placed the small piece of cooked meat near it, the wolf lifted its head and ate calmly. There was no fear now, only quiet acceptance. Tom felt warmth inside his chest. It had been a long time since he had shared food with another living being. It felt peaceful, almost like sitting with an old friend. After they ate, the sky slowly turned deep blue. Stars appeared above the rocks. The plains looked calm and endless under the night. The wolf lay down close enough to feel the warmth of the fire, but far enough to keep its natural space. Tom understood that this was the wolf's way of showing trust. He spoke softly. "You could have walked away, but you stayed. I am glad you did." The wolf shifted slightly and closed its eyes. Tom sat beside the fire, watching the flames rise gently. The night wind brushed across his face. For the first time in many days, he felt relaxed. He felt safe. The wolf had become more than a creature he had fed. It had become a silent companion, sharing the road and the dangers. As the fire burned low, Tom rested his back against a rock and closed his eyes. The wolf kept its ears alert, listening to every sound around them. It was standing guard without being told. The bond between them was forming in a quiet, steady way. They were no longer strangers but partners in survival. The night grew deeper, and Tom fell asleep. The wolf stayed awake for a long time, watching over him with steady eyes. When it finally rested its head, it knew it had found something rare. A human who was not a threat. A human who had given kindness without asking for anything. Their journey together was just beginning, and the understanding between them was growing stronger with each step. The morning sun climbed into the sky with a warm and steady light. Tom woke slowly, stretching his arms and rubbing the sleep from his eyes. His legs still hurt from the cut, but the bandage he tied yesterday held well. The wolf was already awake, sitting near the entrance of the rock shelter with alert eyes. It looked stronger than before and more confident. Tom stood up and smiled at the wolf. "Ready to move again, friend." The wolf wagged its tail once, a small but clear sign of agreement. Tom packed his bag and checked his water supply. It was low, but he hoped to reach the hills soon, where he believed he would find a spring or a small stream. They started walking across the plains. The land opened before them like a wide golden sea. The tall dry grass moved gently in the soft wind. Birds circled above in the clear sky. The day felt peaceful, but Tom knew the plains often hid danger. He stayed alert, and the wolf stayed close by his side. As they walked, Tom noticed the wolf's step was steady and strong now. Its coat still needed time to recover, but the spark in its eyes had returned. It no longer walked like a starving animal. It walked like a survivor. Hours passed. The sun rose higher, and the air became hot. Tom wiped sweat from his face. The wolf seemed less bothered by the heat, but it slowed its pace to match Tom's steps. Their bond grew stronger without words. By early afternoon, the land ahead began to rumble. At first, Tom thought it was thunder in the distance. But the sky was clear and blue. The rumble grew louder. The wolf stopped walking and lifted its head sharply. Its ears perked. Its body tensed. Tom frowned and shaded his eyes with his hand. A cloud of dust rose far across the plains. Something large was moving fast. The ground vibrated slightly under his boots. Tom realized what it was. A herd of wild bulls. They were running together in a stampede, their heavy bodies shaking the earth as they charged in a wild group. Something must have startled them far behind. Now they were heading forward without control, and their path was leading straight toward Tom and the wolf. Tom knew they could not outrun the herd. The bulls were moving too fast. If they stayed where they were, they would be crushed under heavy hooves and horns. Tom looked around quickly for a safe place. His heart beat fast, but he kept his mind calm. He spotted two large rocks standing close together, forming a narrow gap. It was not wide, but it might be just enough to protect them. He pointed toward it. This way. Hurry. The wolf understood the urgency and ran first. Tom followed as fast as his injured leg allowed. The rumble grew louder with every second. Dust rolled toward them like a rising storm. They reached the rocks. The wolf slipped into the narrow space easily. Tom squeezed in after it, pressing his back against the cold stone. The space was tight, but it shielded them from the open plains. The herd reached them within moments. The ground shook hard. The sound of hooves thundered through the air. Bulls rushed past in a powerful wave. Dust filled the small gap, making it hard to breathe. Tom held his scarf over his mouth. The wolf pressed close beside him. Tom spoke in a steady voice. "Stay still. We are safe here." The bulls ran past them in a long, unstoppable river of muscle and noise. Some passed dangerously close. Tom could hear snorts, stomps, and the scrape of hooves on stone. The pressure of their movement felt like a storm sweeping over the plains. The wolf stayed perfectly still. Its body trembled, but it trusted Tom enough to remain in place. Tom kept one hand on the wolf's back to reassure it. After several long minutes, the thunder of hooves began to fade. The dust settled slowly. Tom waited a little longer until he felt sure the herd had passed. Then he stepped out from the narrow shelter, brushing dirt from his clothes. "We made it." The wolf stepped out beside him and shook dust from its coat. It looked up at Tom with sharp, bright eyes. The danger was gone, and they had survived again by staying together. Tom looked across the plains. The ground was marked with deep hoof prints. The herd had left behind a wide path of disturbed earth. Tom sighed with relief. He knew that without the sheltering rocks, the stampede would have been deadly. He knelt beside the wolf and patted its head. "You were brave. You stayed with me." The wolf pressed its head lightly against Tom's hand. It was the strongest sign of trust it had shown so far. Tom felt warmth in his chest. Every moment with this wolf made his journey less lonely. They continued walking once the danger was far behind. The sun moved slowly across the sky. As the day wore on, the land began to rise gently, hinting that the rocky hills were not far away. Tom noticed that the wolf often looked ahead, as if it sensed something. The wolf stopped from time to time and sniffed the wind. Tom trusted the wolf's instincts. Animals could sense danger long before humans. By late afternoon, Tom and the wolf reached a field of scattered rocks. They moved carefully between them. The land twisted and turned like a maze. Tom listened to the soft crunch of stones under his boots and the lighter steps of the wolf beside him. After some time, Tom saw movement on a distant ridge. A group of wild dogs stood there, watching them. These dogs were smaller than the wolf but known for hunting in packs. Tom felt tension rise in his chest. The wolf stared at the pack with calm eyes. Its ears pointed forward. Tom rested a hand on his belt, ready to pick up a long stick if needed. But the wild dogs stayed far away. After a moment, they ran off, leaving Tom and the wolf in peace. The sun lowered until it touched the edge of the plains again. Tom felt tired after the long day. His leg ached, and he needed rest. He found a small hollow between two hills that offered shelter and shade. They settled there for the night. Tom lit a small fire and cooked a simple meal. He gave the wolf another small piece of meat, and the wolf ate happily. The stars appeared above them, shining bright in the dark sky. Tom leaned back and looked at the firelight flickering on the stones. "We handled danger well today. You and me together." The wolf lay down near him, close enough for comfort but still keeping its natural space. Its eyes slowly closed as it rested. Tom felt peace settle in his heart. Today had shown him that the plains could bring danger at any moment, but it had also shown him the strength of a bond built on trust and shared struggle. The giant cowboy and the recovering wolf slept under the open sky, ready to face whatever the next day would bring. The sun rose slowly over the hills, spreading soft light across the rocky land. Tom woke with a long stretch, feeling the familiar ache in his leg but also the quiet strength that came after a night of rest. The wolf was already awake, standing on a small rise and watching the plains below with steady eyes. Tom stood up and walked toward it. "A new day. Let us see what it brings." The wolf glanced at him, then turned its head toward the east. Tom followed its gaze. Far in the distance, the land dipped into a valley. He hoped there might be water there. The last of his bottle was nearly gone, and the wolf also needed a drink. They began walking toward the valley. The air was cool, but Tom knew it would warm quickly. The rocky ground made each step careful, but the path slowly grew smoother as they approached the lower land. Birds circled above them, and the wind carried a fresh smell that gave Tom hope. After a long stretch of walking, Tom heard something faint. It was the soft trickling of water. His heart lifted. He quickened his steps, and the wolf moved beside him with a spark of energy. They reached a narrow stream hidden between tall grass and smooth stones. The water was clear and cool. Tom knelt and drank deeply, feeling life return to his body. The wolf drank beside him, its tail gently sweeping the ground. "This is a good find. We needed this." The valley felt peaceful. Trees stood along the edges, their leaves whispering softly. Tom filled his bottle and washed his face. The wolf stepped into the shallow water for a moment, letting the coolness refresh its tired paws. Tom considered staying in the valley for the rest of the day, but the wolf suddenly lifted its head and stared toward the northern ridge. Its body grew tense again. Tom followed its gaze and saw movement between the trees. At first he thought it was a deer, but then he saw the taller shapes and the slow way they moved. 3 men walked toward the valley. They were far away, but their direction made Tom uneasy. The plains were wide enough for travelers to pass without crossing into someone else's path. These men were heading straight toward the stream. Tom stood up slowly. "Looks like we are not alone." The wolf stepped closer to him. Tom could feel the shift in the air. The peaceful moment changed into something uncertain. He did not want trouble. He believed every traveler had the right to move freely. But he also knew that not everyone on the plains shared that belief. He packed his bag and looked at the wolf. "Stay calm. We will not start anything." They moved to the side of the valley, staying near the shadows of the trees. Tom watched as the 3 men reached the stream. They wore old coats and dusty boots. 2 of them carried long sticks that looked like makeshift clubs. The third man, the tallest, had sharp eyes that moved quickly across the land. The tall man noticed the footprints near the stream. He knelt to study them. Then his eyes lifted and scanned the trees. Tom could feel those eyes searching for the source. The wolf growled very softly. Tom placed a calm hand on its neck. Easy. They are only travelers. We do not know their minds yet. But his own heart was uneasy. The men spoke in low voices, glancing around. Their movements were careful, not relaxed like peaceful travelers. Tom watched them for a moment longer, then decided it was best to leave quietly. He turned to walk deeper into the valley, using the trees as cover. The wolf followed close. But they only made it a short distance before they heard a loud shout behind them. Hey, you there! Stop! Tom froze. He looked over his shoulder. The three men were walking toward them with fast steps. The tall one pointed at Tom. You have water and supplies. We saw the tracks. Come here. Tom exhaled slowly. He did not want conflict. He stepped into the open space, keeping his hands visible. I am only passing through. I do not want trouble. The tall man smirked. Trouble follows those who walk with a wolf. He pointed toward the wolf, which stood beside Tom with its ears flat. Its teeth were not showing, but its posture made its warning clear. The second man stepped forward. Give us your food and your water. Then we will let you go. Tom shook his head gently. I cannot do that. I need what I have. The plains are long, and my path is far. The men exchanged looks. The tall man frowned. Then we will take it. He lifted his club and stepped forward. The wolf reacted before Tom could say anything. It moved into a protective stance, its body low, its eyes sharp. Tom placed a calming hand on the wolf's back. Wait. No fighting. He turned to the men. I do not want to harm anyone. Walk away. You do not need this fight. But the tall man ignored his words. He stepped closer, his face filled with stubborn pride. He swung his club toward Tom in a quick move meant to frighten rather than hit. Tom stepped back, but the wolf jumped between them. The tall man froze when the wolf snapped its jaws near his arm. The snap did not touch him, but it was close enough to make him drop the club in shock. The wolf did not attack. It only stood firm, its warning clear. Tom raised his voice. Stop. I said stop. I will not fight, but I will protect myself and my companion. The men stepped back, fear replacing their earlier bravado. They looked at each other, unsure. The tallest one glared at Tom for a long tense moment, but he saw the strength and calm in Tom's stance. He also saw the wolf ready to defend. Finally, the tall man raised his hands. Fine. Keep your supplies. We do not want to fight with that animal. The three men backed away slowly. They turned and walked toward the other side of the valley. After some distance, they disappeared behind the ridge. Tom let out a long breath. The wolf relaxed and leaned gently against his leg. Tom knelt and placed both hands on the wolf's shoulders. Thank you. You protected me without harming anyone. That took strength and sense. The wolf blinked slowly, then sat down beside him, calm once again. Tom looked toward the stream. He wished the plains were safer, but he knew danger lived in all corners of the wild. What mattered was how they handled it. Today, they had chosen restraint and caution. Tom felt proud of the wolf and of the bond they shared. He and the wolf moved deeper into the valley, away from the place where the men had stood. The adventure was far from over, and the plains still held many challenges. But Tom felt ready for whatever lay ahead. The wolf walked beside him with quiet confidence. Together they continued their journey, step by steady step. The morning rose with a soft pale light that touched the hills. The giant cowboy named Tom stood outside his small cabin and looked toward the forest. The air carried a quiet calm. It felt like nature itself was waiting for something. Inside the cabin the young wolf, whom Tom now called River, rested near the warm stones that Tom had placed by the fire. River had grown stronger over the past days. His ribs were no longer sharp against his skin, and his steps no longer shook with weakness. Tom walked back inside and found River awake. The wolf lifted his head in a gentle way that no longer held fear. It held trust. Tom felt a warm sense of pride. He had seen many things in his life, but watching a starving wild creature slowly find strength beside him felt like something deep and rare. River watched Tom gather his tools and pack his bag. Today was the day Tom had been thinking about. The ranchers in the area had seen movements of a large herd of wild deer near the valley. For a wolf pack, this was a lifeline, and Tom knew River needed to return to his kind at some point. The young wolf could not live forever beside a human. Nature had its rules. When Tom stepped outside, River followed him. The wolf stopped beside him and tilted his head, waiting for a sign. Tom looked down with a slow breath. "We need to go to the valley today. It is time you meet your pack again." River blinked with calm golden eyes. He did not understand every word, but he understood the meaning. Tom placed his hand gently on the wolf's head for a short moment before they started walking. The path to the valley was long. They crossed land filled with tall grass that brushed against Tom's legs and trees that whispered with a quiet breeze. River walked beside him without limping and without fear. There was a sense of harmony between them, as if they had traveled together for years. At times River ran a little ahead, sniffing the air and checking for danger. At other times he fell behind and matched Tom's steps. Every now and then Tom spoke to him in a low warm voice, and River listened as if the words were the wind itself. After many hours they reached the high ridge above the valley. From the top they could see the wide land stretched far with golden grass and a small river shining like silver. Tom pointed toward the distant trees. "Your pack moves somewhere near there. I saw the signs when I came here last season." River's ears moved. He looked over the land with a gaze full of instinct. A soft sound left his throat, not of fear but of recognition. Tom watched him with a steady heart. "This is where you belong. Not trapped. Not starving. Not alone." The two began their descent down the ridge. As they walked, Tom noticed something in the distance moving through the grass. Dark shapes. Familiar shadows shaped like wolves. River saw them too, and his steps changed. They grew slow but alert. Tom stopped walking and placed his hand on River's back. "It is all right. They will know you are not a threat." River studied the pack from a distance. The wolves had noticed them. They approached as a group. Their eyes watched with sharp focus and their tails were held strong. Tom did not step forward. He stood still with calm posture. This was River's moment. The largest wolf of the group stopped a short distance away. Its deep brown fur shifted with the wind. Its eyes fell on River with powerful judgment. River lowered his head in respect. The young wolf stayed close to Tom, but he did not show fear. He showed submission the way wolves spoke to one another. The pack leader circled once around River. The other wolves observed with interest. No one growled. No one attacked. They recognized the young wolf as one of their own. The leader made a low sound that echoed through the valley. River stepped forward. The pack leader touched his nose against River's cheek. It was a sign of acceptance. A sign that River had a place among them again. Tom watched with a quiet smile. "You are home now." River turned to look at Tom. His golden eyes softened, and for a moment the wolf looked like he wished to stay. But then he looked back at the pack and took another step toward them. The choice was natural. Tom knew it. The pack accepted River fully. They moved around him. They sniffed him. They welcomed him with calm motions. Soon River stood among them, as if he had never been lost. Tom took a step back. "Take care of him," he whispered under his breath. He turned around and began walking away. But before he had gone far, River ran toward him. The wolf stopped in front of Tom and held his head high. It was a final goodbye. A silent thank you. A moment that needed no words. Tom knelt and placed his hand on River's head one last time. "You stay strong. You stay safe. You have a family again." River closed his eyes for a short moment and then ran back to his pack. The wolves waited for him, and once he rejoined them they moved off toward the deeper part of the valley. Tom stood alone on the ridge watching them until they vanished behind the trees. His heart felt heavy but warm. He had saved a life. He had gained a friend. And he had returned that friend to the world he belonged to. On his way back home the land felt different. The wind felt lighter. The sky seemed wider. Tom knew he might never see River again, but that did not trouble him. Their paths had crossed for a reason, and that reason had been fulfilled. As the sun lowered behind the hills, Tom reached his cabin. The place felt quiet, but it did not feel empty. He looked toward the forest with a peaceful smile. Some friendships do not fade. They live in the land. They live in the heart. They live in the memories that change a life forever. That night as Tom sat near the fire, he thought of the promise he had made the first day he met the starving wolf. I need a friend and you need food. Neither of them had known how far that simple moment would take them. Neither of them had known how strong trust could become between a giant cowboy and a young wolf. In the quiet warmth of the fire, Tom closed his eyes. Somewhere far in the valley, a wolf lifted his head and howled a calm, gentle sound into the wind. Tom smiled. He knew the voice. And he knew he would never forget it.